Hello YouTubers and fellow Whovians, and welcome to another Doctor Who action figure review. For today's review, I shall be taking a look at the Keeper of Traken Set, which contain 4 figures that you can see in front of you now. So we have the Master, the 4th Doctor, the Melkur, and the Master's grandfather clock, TARDIS. So quite a lot to go through with this set, so without further ado, let's start talking about these figures individually, starting off with the 4th Doctor from this story. Now this figure is quite different because the 4th Doctor doesn't have his iconic scarf or anything like that. It's one of the very few figures to not have this, the other ones being the 4th Doctor regenerated and the 4th Doctor, which is based off his appearance from the Talons of Wang Xiang. So this is a welcome release, as this is what is basically like a jacketless or coatless 4th Doctor, as seen in some scenes from season 18, and you see this quite a bit throughout the Keeper of Traken as well. So it makes sense that they did this. One thing I will say right off the bat, and I've just noticed this, he doesn't have his sonic screwdriver. Now, he does come with his sonic screwdriver, so I'm not sure what's happened there. I found it. Turns out I did drop it. Looking at the head sculpt, it is the same head sculpt that was used on the season 18 4th Doctor, which is one of my favourite figures of all time. Really do like this head sculpt. I think it is the best head sculpt that we've actually had of Tom Baker. It shows him in his later years as the 4th Doctor. Really excellent head sculpt, like with the hair and everything. Always dig this. Going and having a look at the jacket, he has the lapels with the question marks that have been painted gold, and here is like a really nice pattern. He's like wearing his red waistcoat, and you've got like patterns with gold, which I think is really nice. It does work a lot for this figure. The sleeves of the shirt that he's wearing underneath have been nicely sculpted with all the creases. Obviously it's painted white. Going at the back, you can see more of the waistcoat where it fastens at the back. You got a buckle which has been sculpted on there, been painted silver. All very nice. And having a look at the trousers, he's wearing his red trousers with his boots, which I believe are the same sculpt as the normal season 18 figure for the 4th Doctor, which completely makes sense, as this is basically a jacketless, coatless 4th Doctor from that season. So overall, an excellent sculpt once again, and a rather excellent figure, which is quite strange because it doesn't really look like your typical 4th Doctor figure. But I've got to say it's a really good choice that was made by Character Options all those years ago when this set was released. The articulation as well is quite good because this guy does have the ball jointed arms, so he can have all sorts of dynamic poses, very flexible in the hips, as you can gather there. He has the normal articulation as well, like at the shoulders, at the elbows, at the biceps, in the wrists. Legs can move up and down and back and forth and left to right, all of that's usual business, and there is even articulation in the knees. Oh yeah, and the head easily can do a 360-degree turn. So overall, there's a lot to like about this figure, and you can pose him in a wide variety. I think this is the most articulated 4th Doctor figure that has ever been released by Character Options. Quite a shame that we never got that with most of the other 4th Doctor figures, but you got to remember this was one of the last sculpts that was used for the 4th Doctor, when these Forbidden Planet sets were a regular occurrence back in the early 2010s. So it makes sense, but at the same time it's quite a shame that we didn't get some of these highly articulated figures a little bit earlier in the line for more of the Fourth Doctor figures that were released, because the majority of them were of course released quite early on, as the Fourth Doctor is, well, in essence the most popular Doctor that has ever been. But overall, yeah, really good figure. One of the highlights of this great set. So I'll move him out the way. We're going to talk about the next figure in this set, which is a figure which I really like. Again, it is the Master, as seen in said story. Now, this is quite a simple one, really. It's the same sculpt as the Deadly Assassin Master figure, which was released previously in Wave 2 of the classic range, and that wave was released almost 10 years ago. It's quite scary to think that, but that is when it was. So your articulation and all of that, everything like that is going to be exactly the same. So if you want to check out all of that, you can delve into the history of my reviews that I've made through the years, and you may be able to find my review of the Master from the Deadly Assassin. It's a good watch, I highly recommend you do it. You can see how much has changed since then. But of course, saying it is the same sculpt, there are a few differences of course, because between those two stories the actors were different. That actor was Peter Pratt. This actor is Geoffrey Beevers. So looking at the sculpt of the face, I've got to say it looks better on the figure than it did in the show, because in the show the teeth were really weird. If you watch it, then you'll be able to understand. I've always liked this sculpt. I think it is really good. It really captures the essence of Geoffrey Beevers' Master, I do feel. Even though, you know, he's mostly just a hooded person. What it is, it's a Deadly Assassin figure with a different face, different hands. That is more or less it. But it works. It's great. I think that this is a really good version of the Master to have. I actually had this Master as a profile pic for my YouTube thumbnail many years ago now, because when I first got this, it was a few years ago. I remember really liking it so much that I ended up making it my YouTube thumbnail. I'm not sure how many people are watching this who actually remember those days, but if you're one of those people, then high five. Thank you very much for watching for all of this time. What can I say? It's a pleasure to do these videos for all of you. So yeah, that's the Master. I'm going to do a little comparison now to show you the difference between this one and the Deadly Assassin one. So just one moment. And here are the two Masters side by side. They are the same incarnation of the Master, but just played by two different actors. Obviously the Keeper of Traken mask is better than the Deadly Assassin mask. This figure has a sash of Rassilon, and he's also got his gun, whereas this one didn't have any accessories or anything like that. And I think the coat, it may have been sculpted or painted a little bit differently, but everything else is literally the same apart from the face and the hands. So there's your comparison, guys. Next up is the Melkur. I'm not gonna be too long on this one. It's a very simple figure. What it is a statue, and that is what it was in the program. But I think it's very nicely sculpted. Looks very alien. As you can see, he's got the red eyes and it's been sculpted exactly how the statue looked in the Keeper of Traken. Very nice. Looks a little bit too plain, I'll be honest with you. I mean, you can see like that effect to give the impression that it is a statue. There's not that many effects. I would have liked to have seen like maybe a bit of moss on the shoulders, as that's what you saw in the story. So I don't know, maybe a bit more of the old weathered effects here and there on this figure. Then I may have liked it a little bit more. But for the most part, it does the job. It looks like the Melker. You can pretend to use the Melker. You can recreate some of those iconic scenes from the 4 episodes that this was in. This is actually articulated as well, which they didn't really have to do. They could have just made this a rotocast figure. But no, they added articulation, which I think is good. So head can move. I'm not going to move it too much because it may be a pain in the ass to stand, but arms can move. They can't do a 360 or anything like that because of the shoulders, the legs, the knees, and I think I'll just see if the feet can do it. I don't think the feet can, but the knees definitely have articulation points. And it's really good that they did that, because again, you can have more fluidity if you want to do an animation with this particular figure. So overall, a welcome addition to the set, one which was certainly unexpected when this first got announced many years ago. But you got to remember as well, this was released as part of the Dapol line as well. So this is one of the few characters that was part of both character and Dapol. So I guess a lot of people really did like the Melker, and a lot of people really did like the Keeper of Traken. I like the Keeper of Traken. I think it's a good story. So I'll just move him out of the way. We're going to take a look at the last accessory, or last set piece of this, if you will, and it is the Master's TARDIS. It's the Master's grandfather clock. Very simple, and to be honest with you, I don't think it's that great. I think this is the sort of down point of this set. I would have rather they released like an Adric figure to come with this set. I feel it would have been much better. I mean, looking at this, just taking a closer look, you got like a little bit of a wood grain effect going on. I feel like the top of it looks really cheap, because it basically looked like they got crayon and they just painted on the top of it. So I don't know what they were doing there. I mean, I can understand why they've done it, because they want to give it that wood grain effect, but I feel like it works better on the actual Doctor's TARDIS figures that have been made through the years, but it doesn't work with this, which is quite strange. You should have done something similar to those. I mean, the bottom just looks plain, and if you look at it at the side, and then you take Geoffrey Beevers here, like, the opening is meant to be like on the side, like how can he fit in there? He looks like he's too fat. He would struggle to get in because of his cloak and everything. I mean, if you take Tom Baker, he may just about get in. But I don't know, I feel like this needs to be much wider. Not too much wider, maybe like that much wider. Just to give it a little bit more realism, I feel. Because I think that the sort of Mr. Trick, it's a really good idea putting in this set, but I feel like the way it's been executed for this occasion hasn't been great. And to top it all off, they're giving it these stickers, and yeah, if you look at this, you can see that part of it is peeling off a little bit, and there's a little bit of a ripped there or whatever, which is a real shame. They didn't really deliver with this. I would have much rather seen something like an Adric figure, maybe a Nissa figure, to come with this. Of course, we all know that that has never happened, and, well, never say never, it might happen in the future, in like a 5th Doctor set or whatever. I'd be open to seeing an Adric figure with a Cyber Leader from Earthshock. That would be really something. Character, if you're watching, then get on that. I would really love that. Finally, last accessory for this set is the device which the 4th Doctor uses to save the day and all of that scientific gibberish. I can't remember the actual explanation because it has been quite a while since I did watch The Keeper of Traken. It's been at least 5 years since I've seen the story. I'm getting up to it at the minute because I'm doing a marathon at the moment, so I will get to it eventually. But I remember that the 4th Doctor was fiddling with this thing. The little orb thingy on this as well is removable, and it's the same orb which was the orb accessory that was in the Destiny of the Daleks set. And that's because in real life it was the same orb in the programme as well, because the BBC, they really do like to reuse their props, but that's fine. They both did the job as two completely different things. But I think overall, once again, didn't have to do this, but it's really good that they included this in this set. Nice added bonus. So there you have it. That is the orb thingy. And that is my review of the Keeper of Traken set. Overall, I think it is a good set. We've got a nice 4th Doctor figure. We have another variation of the Geoffrey Beevers Master. Really great figure to have if you're a fan of his Master, because his Master did feature heavily in the Big Finish audio dramas as well, so it's worth getting for that as well as being a fan of the Keeper of Traken. Now you have the added bonuses of the Melker. I think the Melker is quite a good figure. Could have maybe added a bit more weathering effects to it and a bit of moss on the shoulders, but it does the job. It looks like an imposing statue like it was in the Keeper of Traken. And you have this weird device thing which the 4th Doctor, Adric and Nissa use throughout this story. And you have the Master's, quite frankly, tiny grandfather clock, which is a little bit of a letdown to this set. I would have rather we saw something else included, but overall it's there, it exists, it's out there. So very good set. I wouldn't say it's the best ever set that's been released by Character Options, but at the same time you do get some really cool things from this, and as a forms of collecting, this is very rare because none of this that you see in this set has ever seen a re-release in any form. We've never seen a re-release of the 4th Doctor. We've never seen a re-release of the Geoffrey Beevers Master so far. We might see it at some stage because the Peter Pratt version from the Deadly Assassin, which you saw earlier on in this review, that did get a re-release. So maybe we might see something of a similar fashion with this version of the Master at some point. Whether we do or not is another question, but it's not out of the question. The grandfather clock and the Melker, these are going to be rare now. I'd say this is like the only way you could get it. So if you want to spend a ridiculous amount of money, then go and do so. You can do it on places like eBay. I'm sure that a lot of scalpers out there will be willing to make a lot of money from this figure set. So yeah, overall, very good set, albeit with a few nitpicks that I have here and there. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more action figure reviews on this channel. I shall see you next time. Take care. Cheerio. you.